Oh, that's a tough crowd.
Welcome, everyone. Apologies for showing up 7 minutes and 30 seconds late. We're going to take it out of Todd's report.
Not a problem.
Welcome, everyone, back to the room. Finally, thank God, we're all here. We'll just get started with the Pledge of Allegiance for everybody. Everybody in person now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. So, please conduct a roll call.
Yes, sir.
Mind people maybe unmuted.
Brian Dames,
I'm here.
Mike Dowd, Frank Facciano. Okay, there he is.
Here.
Don Godshaw,
Present.
Justin Grimshaw,
Here.
John Hayes,
Here.
Ron Heckman,
Here.
Larry Hemberger,
Present.
James Irwin,
Here.
Jeff Matskin,
Here.
Glenn Reedman,
Present.
Mike Stershik,
Here.
Matt Turk,
I'm here.
Chris Worley, and Tara Zaransky. Here.
Excellent. Do we have any public comment today?
We do not, sir.
I would ask then for an approval of our minutes of May 25th to 2021. Thank you, Frank. Second, I'll give it to Glenn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. That will take us right into our treasurer's report. I think Brian's with us virtually.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll hand it off to Todd to run us through the details.
All right. And remember, I got to cut it short.
Exactly.
Good to see everybody in person. I'll walk through the treasurer's report for May. Always start off with the traffic, really kind of the engine that kind of gets us going around here. You can see we had a pretty good month of May as far as traffic. Last year in May, we were at the lowest part as far as pandemic was concerned, so we were 5.5 times more traffic than we had last year. The second best traffic that we had since 2005 for the month of May. So good stuff. But if you look at compared to 2019, 2017, we got a ways to go. Certainly we can take a deep breath, but certainly we have some work to still do, but it's an encouraging sign. Next slide, please, Sabette. This is for May, for the month. Again, this shows us positive, always a good thing for us that we're positive for the month. A trend that we hope continues, and a big part of that is traffic and parking. Parking back on top. It helps us with the revenue there, and we continue to have good stuff on aviation services. And now you're starting to see the other part of that is our expenses are starting to creep back up to meet the new demand in such a short period of time, which is going to be its own challenges going forward. And again, you see what's going on with the workforce and everything. So we got a lot of challenges, but again, it's good to have these challenges as opposed to the ones we had last year.
You mentioned higher salaries. We had to adjust wages to meet the.
Well, some of it's just demand. We need more people. We have more hours. It's just, it's good problems to have, but.
It's really filling in, a lot of the positions at this point that, as we had kind of a thinner staff through some of this, I think it's really just getting people back in the door. So you're seeing that as Todd points out in the hours.
It's not that they weren't here. It's just, the activity wasn't here, so the hours were reduced, and now the hours are picking back up. So again,
We've not yet had to then adjust any salaries based on labor market conditions.
not as much, but that's certainly a concern that we're trying to deal with. Again, we're balancing a lot of different things going on, and I always point back to, go to the next slide, so that you remember we had a very challenged budget for 2020. We're going to come back, 2021, and we're certainly going to come back in August and talk about some adjustments, and some of them being the things we were just talking about, which is some of these adjustments and some of the things that we have to do to kind of compete and do what we need to do to meet the demand that has hit us really fast. So again, year to date, kind of consistent with the trend that things are improving, but a lot of that year to date number is some kind of, once in a while income, not repetitive income. And a big part of that was the easements, and I'll talk about that a little later in the one slide. And we still had a bunch of CARES reimbursement in there that makes up a big portion of that. But again, positive signs. Year-to-date, we're down versus budget. We're making strides. And like I said, when I get to the point where my talks are really short, and I'm out of here in 5 seconds, that means that somebody else can talk and we're in a good place. So, next slide. Did you have a question, Glenn? No. Oh, okay. Next slide. And this is just kind of when I talked about the big variances again. Aviation service is a big part of kind of helping us meet the demand and some of the things that are going on there with the interplane and the fuel sales, good stuff, revenue. I think you've heard me say before, we can't cut our way to success. We need revenue to kind of generate that. And again, our easements, which are the big topic lines there. Next slide. And again, this is about our cash. This also reflects our new debt service for the connector, which we did close on. We'll talk about that in a little bit more about when we talk about our connector update, but that's something that we did do. We did close that deal at the beginning of June, so we do have that financing, and you see the initial parts of that going on there. Next slide. And then you can see we maintain our 60 days cash on hand pretty well, but you're going to start to see that number go down because of a lot of things we're going to have to do in a hurry, and some of that being infrastructure. And that $49,000 over there will go up because costs are going to go up. So that's kind of our number based on what we budgeted on, but as we raise the budget, that number goes up, and we have to kind of meet that too. So at that point, I think that's it. Try to keep it short, make up for your time there, man.
I'm surprised you took me seriously.
No, that's okay. I don't mind talking short. That means things are better.
Yeah, but it's a good thorough report. And does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yes, go ahead.
How's the parking?
I'm sure you saw it when you came in here. I think over the weekend we got to where we had 60 spots. We had to open up the overflow.
Oh my God.
So it's good, but it's fast. So what we're adjusting, yes.
I saw it was slightly down against budget, so that was just for the month of May.
No, for the month it was up, but that's year to date.
So we're still making up for January being quite.
Yeah, January, February, March, but the second quarter has really picked up for us. Any other questions?
I move to accept the report. Second.
Thank you, Mike. Second. Wow. Everybody's excited to get out back under the 100-degree weather. So I've got a second from John. All in favor of accepting the report as presented by Todd, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the report is accepted. Do we have Mike with us?
Yes, we do. And,
Mike, I'll turn it over to you for the business committee.
well, Matt, thank you very much. We've got some good news and a good opportunity for us to continue to move forward in one of the critical pieces of our infrastructure. And Ryan made a great presentation at a committee meeting, so I'd like to turn the whole thing over to him, but this is a plan to continue the rehabilitation of our runways. So Ryan, you're on.
Great. All right, thanks, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. So this might seem a little different in terms of how we're going to present it. We talked about it in the committees, but it's all the same components that we typically include in the grant. It's just with the timing of where we are in the administrative process of receiving the grant from the FAA and some of the other components that we're looking for. So really, it's kind of a three-part acceptance, and at the end, I apologize, it'll be a kind of very very wordy resolution, but it's really accepting the AIP grant, awarding a construction contract, and then authorizing the construction phase services as part of that as well. So if you want to scroll back up so that. So big thing with this one is it's the 9th phase of our Runway 64 rehabilitation project, starting from design. It's our 4th for construction. Talked about it in committees. Really, this encompasses part of the midfield section of the runway, taxiway Echo North reconstruction, and then relocating taxiway Alpha 3 that connects to our air carrier ramp to prevent runway incursions that the FAA is looking to mitigate. So again, probably should have started off with this. This grant is 100% federally eligible through the Coronavirus Act that was passed last year, or earlier this year. Can't keep track of them all. But again, 100% funded, so there's no local share, no state match as well. If you scroll down a little, so we did go into the construction portion of it. 2 bids were received back in March. I think I mentioned in committees, the application was actually due earlier this year, so we had to bump up when we put bids together. Lowest responsive bid was from Lehigh Valley Site Contractors, H&K Group, who we are still working with them on a number of other projects. Their bid was $10,882,612. The other bidder, Morrissey, which is the other contractor on site now, very close and comparable. And I think I mentioned at committees is Lehigh Valley Site had bid on all the other runway packages as well. Morrissey was just the lowest bidder on those. So again, mentioned the 100% federal share. In terms of the construction phase services we talked about, that has the FAA approved construction phase services from Aurora Engineers, which includes process for reviewing with independent fee estimates and confirming those amounts. So that's included in there as well, and all the backup was in Novus. So just a couple quick things to think about is this is the first phase, with the fourth phase having an additional contractor on site working on the runway, which actually will give us a little bit more efficiencies of having 2 crews out there, especially in September when we do the full airfield closure during those two windows to get a good amount of work done during that time frame. Just to kind of wrap everything up, obviously with 9 phases, it's quite a lot. We're at this point looking about potentially 2 additional phases into 2023. I don't think I mentioned it before, but this phase is the last to rehabilitate or strengthen the entire length of the runway. The next 2 phases are for some of the shoulder work and taxiway connectors as part of that as well. So as I mentioned before, the FAA has approved the grant application. It's in their process flow. We're anticipating receiving all the paperwork in July. It's really just going through that process through headquarters. But then what we're looking to do is, upon board approval, issue the notice of award to continue things moving with the contract administratively while we're waiting on the grant component of it. And then once we get the grant offer, accept that within the time frame that's required. And then once everything is in line, issue the construction notice to proceed to start this fall prior to the winter shutdown. So as you may recall with other grants, usually get them in late August, early September, so it's hard to start in the fall. So we're trying to get ahead of that, which will help us when we get to that September closure. So if you bear with me, I'll read the recommendation if you want me to do that, and then, or if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, any questions for Ryan while we're, before we get to the wordy part?
This is Brian. I have one question.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Ryan, can you just tell me just a little bit more about the Alpha 3 taxiway? You mentioned Runway Incursion. Can you just give me just a touch of background on that?
Sure. Yeah, so I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the FAA, and you maybe have heard of it, that Runway Incursion Mitigation program that they've done in airports across the country is they looked at hot spots on airports that had the potential to have runway incursions. So with that program, they updated their advisory circular requirements to prohibit direct access from an air carrier apron or a ramp onto the runway. So the way it is now is an aircraft could come off the ramp, go straight through taxiway Alpha and right onto runway 624 if they didn't have the proper clearances. So what they do is offset the connectors so that when they come out of the air carrier ramp or a GA ramp, you have to make a left or a right on the taxiway. So there's no inadvertent entry onto a runway that you weren't intending to get on.
And which direction is it going to be moved then?
To the west, so actually lining up a little bit more where our remain overnight apron is.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks for asking the question, Brian. It's always good to have your critical eye on this.
Yep, that's a good question.
And what's the percentage of this again?
Yeah.
I didn't-
100%.
Oh, okay.
So Ryan, just for the
Oh,
benefit,
I
of
didn't hear that part.
some of our, because some of our board members have only been with us during this insane COVID period and maybe didn't pick up on this during the orientation. Could you just real quickly walk through what a typical funding percentage looks like, where we get different support?
So typically with these grants, we've been getting 90% federal share. So we get 90% of the cost from the FAA, 5% we then apply for the state to give us that match, and then we cover 5%. So of that total cost, our local shares are typically 5%.
And that's it's the State Bureau of Aviation right, which is
Yeah.
part of the PennDOT, is part of PennDOT.
Yeah, PennDOT Bureau of Aviation, and they have a specific pot of money for those AIP matches.
Okay, and the AIP is the Airport Improvement Program.
Federal grant program through the FAA, so any of
What's
those.
the share on this one? What's the split?
So this one's 100% federal. And the way that, basically the way
What
that
was
works.
that?
Yeah.
You're using up your banked time, Todd.
Yeah. So the way they actually made it work
Enthusiastic about this grant.
is 90% still comes from the Airport Improvement Program bucket. The other 10% comes from that COVID relief bill
Okay.
that funds it. So it's just the way we show it on our reimbursement request, but it's all funded through the same grant.
And H&K is the lowest responsible bidder in this case. And just for the benefit of newer folks on the board, we are, as a public entity, required to accept the lowest responsible bid.
Correct. Yeah, lowest responsible bid. And
Upper word responsible so that we don't end up
Correct.
where we ended up in prior
Right.
years.
yeah, and all that is included in our grant application with all those requirements that the FAA confirms meets all of their certifications as well.
All right, thank you for those clarifications.
And we know H&K are good folks, so it's a,
Agree.
Do you want to go ahead and read us through the request?
So I'll do the wordy part. So what we're looking for is to award the bid to Lehigh Valley Site Contractors of Skippack, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $10,882,612, and approve the associated construction phase services with Aurora Engineers Incorporated in the amount of $1,770,368 for the Rehabilitate Runway 624 Pavement Construction Phase 9 project. And again, as we mentioned, contingent upon receipt of FAA AIP Grant 342-001-112-2021 in the amount of $12,671,797 and authorize staff to accept this grant offer.
So move.
a motion to accept that?
You got a
So
motion
moved,
from
Mike.
John Hayes. Give the second to Frank.
All right. The motion second. Any further discussion? If there's none, then all those in favor of the staff recommendation as worded by Ryan, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dowd. Final item of business here is the acquisition of a piece of property. Darren, you're going to walk us through that one?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We did go through this in committees, actually, Matt McConnell's here to go through it with the committee, but this is a property kind of strategic to the airfield, just north of our airfield maintenance building, a little over 2.6 acres, 19,000 square foot building. We're currently using the building we're currently leasing the building and using it for storage for a lot of our snow removal equipment, other maintenance equipment, so. Something we had talked about a couple of years ago, trying to acquire, we were able to negotiate that basically as a lease of up to a minimum of 20-month lease and then acquisition. So our 20 months expires July 20th and we want to close then obviously instead of paying any more rent. So certainly answer any questions. Purchase price is 1.9 and change. It is budgeted. It is part of our cash flow. We will be using our AIP restricted account money, the money we have left from the last Rockefeller sale. This is an eligible acquisition because it is on our Exhibit A for acquisition. You can see where it's located. So the yellow highlighting there is the property we'll be acquiring. So
Todd, clarify again, how much AIP money will we have left after this deal?
Approximately 6.6.
And that's shared in the financials.
Yeah, it's in the
Projected.
It's
Fine.
in the cash flow.
What currently was the almost monthly rent?
God, I don't remember off the top of my head either, Glenn. I should know that, but
I'll shoot you an email on that, I just don't know off the top of my head.
Is it about, it's probably within market rate for a, but it's not a great building.
it's not a great building. It's a good, decent warehouse. The office space is not super usable. We're trying to lease it. We've had the office space advertised to lease, but there's just not a lot of interest there.
But
So
it suits our needs.
Yeah, it works fine for us. And I mean, honestly, the property is really the important piece for us and the building works for us today. You know,
This is the property that we did own.
Yes.
yeah,
And
Thank
the
you,
reason
Tara.
why- Yeah, the reason why we're acquiring this is because of its positioning to to other properties.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, we've recently acquired all of this, and obviously there's our maintenance facility. It just makes sense for us to
So
own.
this is a strategic purpose, and that's why.
Yes.
It's more about the land than the building.
It serves a good short-term purpose right now because we need the space to store snow removal equipment and things.
And we're required to keep that snow removal equipment
Covered.
covered
Protected.
as per our grants,
Except in the snow.
except in the snow. That is covered by snow. No, that is covered by snow.
Yeah, exactly.
A less far-sighted board, to your point, Tara, did dispose of this property at one point in time.
Yeah,
Could not have predicted that we would then need it.
need it later.
Thankfully, this board has greater vision into the future. And
Well, that's why I wanted to point that out, because this is part of a larger vision to purchase other parts. And did you mention that this land was appraised yet?
I haven't gotten the appraisal back yet. We had just asked the appraiser for an opinion on the value when we signed the original agreement and feel like it is market. We're just waiting for the actual official appraisal to come in, so.
Would anything change in this transaction if the appraisal came in like 65 for
We're
now?
under agreement to purchase it at this price, so, yeah, I mean, I would think if anything, we'll probably get it at a better price than what it's valued at. I don't see it appraising for less than what we agreed.
No, yeah.
Glenn, 16,072, it's on your opinion.
On your appraisal question, Tara, it becomes an accounting question on what value we carried on the books if it appraises for less than the purchase price. So Todd will take care of that.
Thanks for.
Todd.
Thanks.
any other questions for Darren or Todd?
Yeah.
You got that, Glenn, right?
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to approve the acquisition of 1621 East Ray Street.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Glenn. I'll give the second to Tara on that one. All in favor of approving the acquisition of 1621 East Race, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Darren, go get it.
Thank you.
That concludes all of the formal action that we need. I'll ask Tom to provide us with a director's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Great to see everybody in person for sure, and particularly with some of the numbers we're still looking at for May, as we talked about, 445% up from May of last year, but also only 6% down from May of 2019. So as Todd pointed out, it's been a while, but really our second best May in quite a while, so great to see those numbers back. Taking a look at what we're seeing, at least right now in June, TSA's national numbers, so if we look at what's happening nationally, about 291% up for June right now versus last June, and about 26% down nationally versus 2019. So June 2021 versus June 2019 nationally. Locally here at ABE, we're seeing our activity up again 200+% over last June, but really it's what is it compared to June of 2019? We're only down 0.5% right now. So versus nationally at 26% down. So good to see the numbers there. Taking a look into July, just at the air carrier schedules, seats are pretty much on par in terms of the number of aircraft and seats coming in and out for the month back to July of 2019. So we're seeing that's about the same as what we were trending, again, for 2 years ago. Let's see, taking a look at items that took place since our last board meeting on May 25th. On June 1st, we actually reintroduced our airport volunteers, our navigators, junior navigators, and our COPE program. So we now have Sherman and others back at the airport. It's great to see some of these K-9 programs and other things back at the airport. So I have to thank Glenn and Sherman and the rest of the tribe for coming back out again.
They have a very nice article in today's Express Times on
Yes.
the film program, front
Yes.
page, A1
Yes.
above the fold.
Yes, yeah, it was great. It was great to see that. Yes, but still a very popular program, so people were really excited to see that back this month. June 24th, we did release the 6th edition of GA Today, so we have the newsletter out. A lot of good information there. Kind of the big takeaway there is the FAA is reinstating Queen City's night approach to runway 15, and so that'll become official August 13th when the next round of FAA publications comes out. So that's that night approach had been pretty well shut down for about 7 years. at Queen City. So removal of the tree obstructions, a lot of the issues we had on that approach end, working as, with the city, we were able to get those items cleared through grants, and so it's great to see that coming back online. And Todd already took the thunder a little bit with the overflow lot. I think we saw the signs for those of you attending in person. The overflow lot is open as we near capacity in the long-term lot this weekend. In terms of upcoming events, we do have TSA PreCheck RV is rolling back into town here in July. Half of those appointments are already booked up at 280 appointments. So July 7th through the 15th, again, it's an $85 fee. It's good for 5 years. So if you're interested in PreCheck, it's a good opportunity to sign up. You can do that from our website.
I had this question today. Once we finish construction, we've got 4 security lanes. Will we have a dedicated pre-check line?
We don't
Do we
know.
know that yet?
We don't know.
Well, pre-check still exists.
PreCheck will likely still exist, but we don't know about dedicated line. Okay. Blood drive. So Miller Keystone is doing another blood drive for us July 13th from noon to 5. And we've done, since 2015, we've collected 218 units over 17 different blood drives. So we've really been continuing to have great turnout for those. So if people are interested, you can sign up for that. Just a quick reminder, no board or committee meetings for July. So a little bit quiet after this, a little summer recess. And I know some questions still about mask mandate, still required indoors in all airports, commercial service airports in the U.S. through September 13th right now, unless that changes. So again, why we're still masked up regardless of vaccination status. Do want to continue to remind people as we talk about our overflow lot, morning departure timeframes here. If you do have a flight out between 5:30, 8:30 in the morning, make sure you get here about 2 hours before your scheduled departure. Give yourself plenty of time to get through security and comfortably get to the gate.
A friend of mine had I think it was a 6 a.m. Allegiant flight down to Sanford. They got here at 4, and they were not the first in line.
Yes, so checkpoint is open at 3:30.
Yeah.
So you can certainly get here and get through and enjoy some concessions on the other side, or maybe see Sherman. But either way, we recommend you give yourself plenty of time. So,
Do you want to elaborate slightly on the July traffic or the June traffic and its reliance on Allegiant? Because this is what we missed in the COVID year was that Allegiant opened a crew base here
sure.
in February of 2020, and then everything changed.
Right, so during the summer, we did see Allegiant bring a third aircraft in the morning. So we now have 3 aircraft outbound in the morning versus the 2 that were promised as part of the crew base. And that runs through mid-August from what we can see and may return throughout the schedule. We don't know. But certainly part of the growth of Allegiant, we know there's a lot of certainly leisure travel happening right now. It's no secret that business travel hasn't really returned just yet. And so even the legacy carriers are handling a lot of leisure travel passengers right now. And Allegiant, certainly no exception, this is their niche. And they certainly are seeing excellent load factors in terms of number of folks on those planes out of here, and that's encouraging. But that's certainly going to continue, we think, through the summer. September, that's the question mark. What happens when we get through sort of the summer? I think some people are still going to be taking vacations outside of the summer peak. Continue to keep an eye on that. But we're in a little bit of uncharted territory with what travel is going to look like as we move into the late third and certainly the fourth quarter.
What else is new?
What else?
Uncharted territory.
Yeah, I mean.
But it is exciting. It's and that's. I'm hopeful that we can effectively communicate to Allegiant our willingness to continue to work with them to establish new routes and show that ABE is an airport that can help them accomplish their objectives.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Hand it over. Any questions for Tom before we hand it over? Yeah, Mike.
Any pushback on the mask mandate?
Very limited. I think, most of what we've seen are people who are a little bit confused because of where Pennsylvania's status is. And, the fact that most places you go now, if you're vaccinated, you're really not mandated to wear one. So I think, people been through here, they understand a little bit about it. Certainly they understand that it's required on the airplane. It's a little bit nuanced that it's in the terminal as well. But we still have a number of cloth masks that we can hand out at our passenger services desk. We have the ability to provide those. And most of the times, it's just a reminder, people are coming in forgetting that they need to have it on while they're in the facility.
Thanks.
Sure.
Very good. Nothing else for Tom. I'll hand it over to Judge Friedberg.
Well, I have two matters that I'd like to discuss in executive session because they relate to pending litigation.
Very good.
Was there any voting or decisions made with regard to that litigation?
Thank you very much, Judge. If there's no other business for the board, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. I'll give it to Ron. I think that's it, right? Big gavel us out.
Yeah, sure.
Long
See you in
time.
August.
See everybody in August.